Hey everyone, this is Spong with the North Central District Alumni Association, and I'm back with you again with another video. And today we're joined by another very special guest, Marco, who's currently serving as one of our national leaders. Marco, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. We know you have a lot on your plate, so we just wanted to express our gratitude. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, glad to help.
Yeah. Marco, so let's just start off. If you wouldn't mind, give us an introduction to who you are, what you're currently doing in life, and what you're currently doing with the fraternity.
Sure. So my name is Marco Krcatovich. I am the National Vice President for Colonization and Membership, which also means that I'm the President-elect of the fraternity. It's a long title, and it's a kind of a complex job. So, part of your job is the expansion and colonization and support of new chapters, and expanding the reach of the fraternity. And part of your job is in membership education, membership development, discipline, and chapter discipline issues as well. Helping chapters navigate that, helping us as a fraternity mitigate risk, and helping us try to understand the issues that are kind of swirling around us. We're in a world now where Title IX and sexual assault awareness and prevention, those things are topics that we're wrestling with as an organization, just like we're wrestling with as a society. Yeah. And a lot of that ends up falling in the VPCM's lap because they're the ones that are sitting there talking with individual students and individual chapters when they're wrestling through the same things. And it's nice because we're a really complex fraternity. We're incredibly diverse. I was an engineering undergrad. I'm an education person now. I'm finishing up my doctorate right now. And I have just as much a role as a music major as anyone else. And so when you have something that wide and that varied, it's great because we can rely on the wisdom of our fellow brothers. But it also means that sometimes we need someone who can sit there and say, okay, but this is what the policy says, or okay, but this is how this means for other chapters, or what this means for the bigger fraternity, or this is what risk it opens us up to as an organization that we need to be aware of. And so a lot of those things fall in the VPCM. The other thing, of course, is just preparing to be the next national president. So, my morning conversation was in talking about where we're going to be in 2021, and how we're going to make some of those decisions. And then, my evening conversation will be with a chapter that is working through discipline. So it's the joy of the job that it's very varied, it's very complex, but you're getting a great sense of the entire fraternity, and really kind of getting a chance to understand the experience of active, associate, conditional members, membership candidates, directors, alumni life members, kind of the whole spectrum.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marco. And we see a lot that you guys are doing a lot of work, and you with our fraternity growing and with some of the new implementation with the Road to Wisdom. I know that we appreciate all the work that you guys are putting into developing our fraternity to be a strong one for the future. So thank you. So right now, a lot of chapters are, going through recruitment. So let's kind of take it back there as well. How did you get your start in KKPsi?
Well, I'll be honest. The reason that I'm here is because I had my wisdom teeth removed right before I was supposed to start band. Mm-hmm. And I did my audition and I was terrible. And they were going to call me and say that you're not going to be part of the Michigan Marching Band. And a sister of the sorority said, well, wait a second, I think he had some teeth issues, let's wait. And so I was in band. When I found out about that after I attended school and got in, it was members of my section that really recruited me, and it was free pizza that got me in the door. So I'm one of those, definitely those people that it's kind of a set of circumstances that fell across and just kind of kept pushing me in this direction. But to be honest, my high school band director was a brother. And so it was something that was there always as I look backwards. There was all these different markers of times where the fraternity and the sorority moved my life in the right direction. But, it wasn't necessarily a plan. I certainly didn't come into, college thinking I wanted to be part of a fraternity. And I certainly didn't expect that, almost twice as long, half of my life now has been in KKPsi. That was never my plan.
That's so cool. So what instrument did you play in the Michigan Marching Band?
I think play may have been a strong word sometimes, depending on how complex the music was. But I actually continued to play trombone.
Okay.
I just finished up working with being part of a community band out here in Illinois. But now that I moved to the city, I'm in the process of looking for a new band to be a part of. But I still try to play the trombone on a pretty regular basis.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So shout out to all you trombones watching right now. So Marco, just kind of keeping in that time period, what, if you wouldn't mind, talk us through, and this may be a difficult question, but talk us through one of your favorite memories as an active brother.
Sure. I'll be honest. It is a little difficult because my favorite memory was actually probably one of the most difficult moments of my undergraduate life. During my sophomore year, I kind of in one of those late February nights went to my chapter sponsor and came out. And she was incredibly understanding, so supportive. But she said, this is something that when you're comfortable, you should share with your brothers because they'll be there. We had not had an out member of the Michigan marching band. Everyone kind of said that that's just not something that they would see. Right. And so I was incredibly nervous that we had our brotherhood retreat. I think about a month later, I was a wreck, just expecting. I didn't know what I was going to say when it was my turn to talk about what was going on in my life. Didn't know where to go. When it came to my turn, started crying because it was just so, I was so nervous about it. And the reaction was so positive.
Yeah.
And the chapter was so supportive. The director of bands actually talked to me individually and kind of, talked me through, his son had come out. And so he was, trying to understand that. I had so much support and I didn't expect it. And so it really changed how I looked at the fraternity and moved it away from, sometimes it feels like a club, right? It feels like this kind of, it's very organizational, it's very bureaucratic. And certainly VPCM is such a bureaucratic job. It's so much paper. But it started to make me realize that this was a brotherhood, that this was it was fraternity in the truest sense, that we were caring for each other as brothers. And I don't think it ever felt as real until that moment. But since then, I've really felt an obligation almost as a brother to make sure I'm providing the same level of love and support that I received at one of my most, kind of nervous moments with, the brothers that I get to interact with. And sometimes that's, you just need to hear that nice voice and that comforting, word on the right day. But I was really lucky, and I feel like there's an obligation to pay that forward.
Oh, for sure. And Marco, that's incredibly powerful to hear, and just kind of looking at band itself, an activity that has allowed so many people a safe place, and just the fraternity, the role the fraternity plays in just being leaders, being supporters, I think is incredibly powerful. So thank you so much for sharing that. So if anyone out there is watching, if you know anybody, yourself or anybody who needs somebody to talk, that you have two people here that are always willing to sit down and listen to you talk. So
absolutely, awesome. Absolutely. And I really hope that, one of the things that has been very, influential for me is that this is a brotherhood where, I don't sit on Mount Nationals. I'm not living in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I'll tell you, I'm in Chicago, Illinois. That's where I live. Our national president lives in South Carolina. And you can tell by our accents where we grew up.
Neat.
And we're people. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. We're accessible people. We don't always have the answer. We don't always know what the next step is, but we're there to help you and to get there. And I am hopeful that, even opportunities like this to talk to people, individually and kind of demystify, these roles, because to be honest, there's nothing special in the sauce that put me in this position. It was, ambition, it was dedication to the organization, dedication to the ideals, but that doesn't mean that I'm the only person that could ever serve here. If anything, I want to make sure that there's a whole multitude of people who can sit in this chair. And so, that only works if we're all working together and talking to each other and reaching out and supporting each other.
That's awesome. Again, thank you so much. That's incredible stuff. Thank you, Marco. So let's fast forward a bit. And, we talked about your favorite memory as an active brother. Let's look at now your time as an alumni brother. And I think something for me that was so powerful was when it finally sunk in that the majority of your time as a brother is as an alumni. And
Yes.
that kind of like blew my mind a bit. I don't know why it didn't get to me, but it wasn't until I graduated, it's like, oh goodness, like I have the rest of my journey to be a
Mhm.
brother still. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about one of your favorite memories as an alumni brother.
Sure. I after graduating, I went to Penn to get my master's, and I
Mhm.
kind of said, you know what, this fraternity thing, it was a great run. I loved being district president. I loved being involved. I really need a break.
Yeah.
It was just, I needed some time out to figure myself out. And I got about 6 months. And then Marie Burley, the Northeast District Governor, called and said, hey, we need a colony advisor. It's only about an hour away from you. I know you don't have a car, but could you make it work? And so I was kind of yanked in there. Um, it was really helpful because then about a year later, I got life membership through a gift, in part from Marie,
Okay.
who actually paid some of that forward. And so when I joined the alumni giving program for KKPsi Alumni Association, when I served on the board of the Alumni Association, I was one of the first brothers to give the gift of life membership to another brother.
Mhm.
Um, and that really became a powerful moment for me to kind of talk about the power of this opportunity, the importance of being a life member. I was able to give away 2 life memberships over my time while I was participating in the AGP,
Mhm.
and it just felt like a continuation. I mean, if Marie was able to see in someone who felt like they were completely burnt out from the fraternity that, hey, you got your 6 months of break, get back in there, then I have an obligation to do the same with brothers that I see. And I've been really lucky because I've had a lot of friends that took their time away and tried to figure out their lives, and now we're in our 30s and our 40s and are realizing we have an opportunity to give back.
Yeah.
And that's an important part of this job.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so you kind of touched on my next question was which is the transition, your transition from active membership to being an alumni member. So for those out there, or for those younger alumni, or for those who are going to be graduating soon, what advice do you have for them as they transition from being very active as an active member to being an alumni status that at least for me, I felt like there was not a lot of clarity in how a person can be a productive alumni member.
Yeah, and it's hard because there's not really, we kind of talked about before we got on here that there's not really a good template for an alum that you can say, okay, just do this and you're all set, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone's journey is a little different. Um, my advice for anyone who's graduating, I mean, one is to be patient. There are so many, you are leaving the safest space you'll ever be, and you're about to enter a world that is not dedicated to band, that is not dedicated to your success, that is all the challenges. And so be patient with the fact that, hey, you may have time the first week after you graduate, but that time may not be there in a month.
Yeah.
When work picks up, when you go back for graduate school, whatever that is. Um, and so I really listened to a lot of brothers when I was getting ready to graduate, who said, take a year,
Mhm.
find yourself, find where you are, feel like your feet are underneath you, and then move forward. And for me, that worked. Having that time I didn't get as much of it as I thought I was going to get when I started, but having that time to kind of sit there and say, okay, I can look at the fraternity from the outside, and to start to reflect on what was really important about it. The family and the brotherhood part of it really kept resonating with me. And so I realized that's what I wanted to be involved in as I kept going, was really working with people on that level. But for any brother, giving that space is helpful, and it gives some time for the chapter to move forward too, because they need to get used to an idea of you not being this active person who's involved with it, so that when you come back, you're additive. You're not a continuation of the journey, but now you're actually adding something to the conversation, and you can't do that if you never go away. And that's not easy to hear. I mean, I'll be honest, every time I get an email from my home chapter, I'm like, great, I'll just hop in the car. It's only 4 hours. I can be there. I'm happy to. And then I realize, well, they don't need me, and I don't add anything to that conversation, but I can be supportive.
Mhm.
And I can send, so I try to send thank you notes to people. I try to send, congratulations to new brothers and things like that. It's a way for me to stay connected
Hmm.
without having to be in the middle of the business, because they don't need me there. They're going to do great. That's the best thing about this fraternity is,
Right.
we recruit good people from
Hmm.
good people. So
Right.
we know that the people who come after us, they're going to do great stuff too. And all we have to do is be supportive in the background and kind of pushing them forward to be successful.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's powerful. It's just to say, take some time and that you can be supportive and be a positive alumni member without being in the middle of everything. I think that's a great lesson there. So,
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that that's like something you can just flip a switch.
yeah.
It was hard for me. My best friend became district president right after me.
Hmm.
And I had to sit there when he made different decisions than I would have made and
Yeah.
just had to sit there and bite my tongue. And it was my best friend. So I'm like, I really just want to tell you how to do this. And of course, he's way smarter than I am. So Eric, if you're listening, like, I've always felt that way. You were always the smart one of the two of us. But it was really hard to watch him move forward and make decisions that would be different from me. And then I got to see his convention. And the
Mhm.
fact that I was able to take some time away from the fraternity let me look at it and realize what he was trying to accomplish, and look at his different take, him being a pharmacy student. And so he really worked on health and wellness, which was never something that was in, my mindset. But now with a little bit of time, I was able to look at it and go, wow, that's a really great way to talk about brotherhood and to talk about self-care as a form of compassion and engagement with each other and empathy. So
That's
that
awesome.
was really powerful for me, but
Yeah.
it only worked because I was able to kind of keep reminding myself, like, take a step back,
Yeah.
relax. Like, the fraternity will not burn down because I'm not in the middle of every single decision. And I still have to remind
Right.
myself of that. Even now, when I'm in the middle of a bunch of decisions, is like, I'm surrounded by the smartest and most dedicated people I'll ever work with. So I've just got to trust them sometimes that they're going to do the thing that they're probably going to do anyway.
Yeah. No, that's powerful. That's a great perspective. Thank you. So, when alumni members are ready to get back involved, kind of here, I believe I'm a little biased. I think that one of the great ways to get involved is to be a member of the National Alumni Association and the NCDAA. So, if I could ask you, Marco, why do you think being members of those organizations are a benefit to our alumni members?
Sure. And I think having sat on the alumni board, it's a little different take from me because I've seen kind of both sides.
Hmm.
I think personally that there's two reasons that are really important to be a part of these organizations. One is the dedication and commitment. So you're making a commitment to your organization that I am willing to lend my voice, to lend my energy and enthusiasm, to lend my resources, whatever, to making the fraternity, making the organization, making the district a better place. And you can do that informally. You can donate every month. You can donate every year. You can volunteer your time. You can send gifts, whatever. But there's something special about having that formal recognition of saying, I sign on to this. Even if most of the time, that may not be the call I would have made that the board makes. But
Right.
it's nice to have, but I can't be represented if I don't have my voice shown.
Hmm.
And so there's that obligation. The other thing that's really important about these associations is what it says to the brothers that came before us and the brothers that will come after us, which is that here I am. I am a director at a university, in the Chicagoland area, and I am still dedicated to the values of KKPsi.
Hmm.
I am still dedicated to supporting the North Central District where I grew up, where I really learned about the fraternity.
Hmm.
Um, and so when I talk to brothers that are older than me, I can say, look, being involved didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
I'm still me, right? You can still poke me, like, I'm good. Um, and I'm still involved. And I'm
Hmm.
involved at the level that I want to be involved in.
Right.
And for brothers that are coming up, as they're getting ready for graduating, they can say, here, I can still be a professional engineer. I can still be a teacher. I can still be a music educator. I can still be, an Army Ranger. And I can be dedicated to the values of KKPsi, and I can be engaged in its future. You can do that, right? And so, but sometimes you need to see those examples and say, okay, like Marco isn't there at every meeting, and I'm not. I own that, right? But I still want to have an active voice in the NCDAA.
Right.
And I'm not on the alumni board. I may not even always totally agree with every decision that's made, but I'm dedicated to them being successful.
Right.
And the only way that I can show that is by being involved, by raising my voice and being an active member of those organizations.
Great. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So let's talk about specifically the NCDAA. What specifically are you looking to get out of the NCDAA? Because I think that others could replicate that same desire.
Sure, sure. I mean, and as an alum of the North Central, it's very happy. I'm very happy to see the NCDA around. I think it offers a lot to not just brothers like me that grew up in this area and have moved back, but those that come into the area that may have been from Oklahoma or California or Florida, or those that are leaving the district, but who are not losing that connection.
Yeah.
I think the NCDA, I think what it really offers more than anything is an opportunity for people who are very different, from different chapters, from different backgrounds, from different parts of the country, to be able to connect with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think the most successful opportunities are when we're able to say, you have a completely different perspective than I do.
Yeah.
You have a different take on where KKPsi is going, or what it can accomplish, or what the ideal experience is like than I do. So let's share that.
Yeah.
Let's have the dialogue. Let's have the conversation. Let's work together. Let's look at places that we can share interests and where I can support your direction and you can support mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the NCDA offers a great opportunity because this is really the most tightly knit in terms of distance. I mean, 8 hours is about the max for this district, right? And 8 hours in some districts wouldn't even get you to the next chapter.
Yeah.
So you have such a great geography, but you also have, great cities, really great chapters that people are coming from, with universities that are incredibly diverse. It's a great opportunity. I mean, you almost couldn't ask for a better setup.
Yeah.
And so in that environment, it may be that, hey, I can only give 1 day out of a year to be involved, and it's not convention. Awesome.
Yeah.
Right? That's just as important as the person who can give 300 days and who can plan convention. The important thing is that you're my brother.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's the relationship that matters more than anything. And the NCDA provides that opportunity to continue that.
Well, thank you so much, Marco. I mean, that's really great to hear, and that kind of reignites my passion just to keep this stuff going. Because I'll be honest, it's not always easy. Getting an organization restarted. There's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of you want to make everyone happy, but
it's almost impossible to do that anyway.
Yeah,
you almost can't win anyway.
Right. So thank you. So this is kind of our last question, but a bonus question, I guess. Looking forward, what can you tell us about NatCon in Stillwater, and why do you think Alumni Brothers should attend?
So, and it's interesting because I sit on the Centennial Committee, and I'm actually, I just, my morning conversation with my counterpart in Tau Beta Sigma, Adrian Rawl, we were talking about 2021 and having the conversations about Tau Beta Sigma's 75th. And so it's a really exciting time when we're starting to think about what the fraternity will look like 100 years down the road and what it has become. When you think about this, small collection of a group of, let's be honest, band nerds who said, hey, this is something I'm really engaged with. I really am, I think that this is meaningful and I want to build something on it. And now we're talking about, 200 plus chapters, thousands of alumni, thousands of brothers. I mean, you're talking about this amazing explosion over 100 years. So part of the NatCon experience is really just being a chance to kind of sit and walk the grounds of our founders, to see the grave sites of Bo Makovsky, of A. Frank Martin, to see the campus where this all started. To get a chance to see, for some chapters, this may be the first chance that you get to see your petitioning document that was signed, in the case of my chapter, 80 years ago. So getting to see that, for others, I mean, it's premiering the NIB. which we're really excited because it looks like we're going to have multiple musical opportunities throughout. From the last schedule I saw, Dr. Tim will be opening us up in the joint session. So you've got a really good, from a programming standpoint, is really great. But then the fact that Saturday will be the centennial celebration, and we'll be able to really celebrate 100 years of KKPsi. And for me, really talk about what does 100 years going forward look like? What are we and where do we want to go? What are our values and where do we want to be? And that's an opportunity where we're going to be connecting with, we're expecting more than 1,000 people in Stillwater. We will be the big, and what's interesting is there are multiple conferences going on at the same time, but we expect to kind of take over the lion's share of that campus, because it's, just going to be such a great opportunity to be connected with our history and to connect with where we're going. And so I hope that Alumni Brothers will make the commitment to get out there. The nice thing about the convention is, getting out to Oklahoma is not the most expensive thing. Hotels in Oklahoma are not the most expensive thing. So this will not break your bank, but it does require a little planning. But your involvement in there is so important. If you think about it, we talk in the ritual, we talk in our documents about this, procession of brothers, about this longevity of our organization, and that we're following in the footsteps of those that came before us. What better way to celebrate that than to actually do it? To actually be able to share in the footsteps of our fellow brothers. And I'll be honest, this past summer was the first time I got to see the grave sites. And it was really moving to realize that here are these people who they just had a really good idea. And now 100 years later, we're trying to keep it going. So I really hope that people will make the opportunity to get out there, to be engaged, and then to move forward, because 2021 is not that far away either. So, there are if you can't make 2019, we still want your voice. We still want you engaged. There'll still be merchandise to buy, right? But we want to keep you involved. That's the really important thing. The brotherhood only works if we're all engaged. Right.
I know I'm super excited. So for all of you guys watching, if you guys are kind of on the border about it, I would say just make the commitment and go, find some alumni brothers out there, or maybe you would reach out to your current chapter so that you do have people that you'll know there. And I promise you'll make lots of friends. So you'll make friends with me and Marco here. So
I will be there. I may be one of the more stressed people at the moment, but trust me, especially if I have a chance to meet brothers from the NCD, it was nice to come home. It was nice to be back in the district that, I learned so much from. And so I have a special place in my heart for the North Central District, for the Alumni Association, and for all that's kind of going on here. So I really can't wait to meet my fellow alums and get to share in our passion for this organization.
Awesome. Well, Marco, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking a moment of your day to do this. For those of you guys watching, if you guys have any questions, how can they reach out to you, Marco?
Sure. So my email address is mkrcatov@kkpsi.org. I'll tell you, to be honest, it's probably easier to go to Facebook and look up Marco Krcatovich. Just be careful that you grab Marco Krcatovich II, because my dad is on there too. And while he is happy to be your Facebook friend, I'll be honest, he's not the most Facebook savvy person. You may not get as many responses from him as you would from me. But I would say, I am always on there. It's on my computer right now while I'm working.
Are we back?
We're back.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, if anyone watching, if you guys want to reach out to Marco, the best way would be for Facebook, remember the second. And if you have any questions about the NCDAA, you can email us at ncdaa@kkpsi.org. Marco, any last words for our viewers?
No, but just thank you so much for the time. Thanks for the opportunity to have the conversation.
Of course. Thank you so much. And hopefully, we'll have many more chances to do so in the future.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
All right. Thanks, Marco.
All right.